I can see him.
Test, test.
Denitza, the slide wasn't removed. It's okay, it's okay. That first slide wasn't. Welcome. I am so delighted to have you here today and to welcome you both in person and virtually. I am going to be introducing Dr. Floyd Ski Chilton. I always want to say Sky, and he knew that from the beginning, so correct me when I'm wrong. He will be talking about conquering the inflammation epidemic on the path to health and resilience. I am Kathy Insel. I'm the director of the Strategic Initiative at the University of Arizona, Innovations in Healthy Aging. I'm a professor of nursing, and this is a little bit old. I'm no longer chair of the Biobehavioral Health Science Division. So some fast facts about aging. In 2020, 1 in 6 people in the US were 65 or older. By 2030, 1 in 5 people in the US, or 20% of the nation's population, will be 65 or older. I want to say that the reason that this particular talk tonight is so important in my work is because many of the chronic diseases that older adults experience are related to inflammation. Chronic pro-inflammatory status is a pervasive feature of aging, and Dr. Chilton will be educating us on this even more. So I want to tell you too a little bit about the Innovations in Healthy Aging Strategic Initiative. We had 4 goals when this was envisioned in 2018-2019 to create an age-friendly University of Arizona that integrates older adults as part of the university community and supports healthy aging. And I want you to know that your participation here today is really important to us because we want older adults to be part of the university and for the university to be part of the community. We also wanted to partner with developers of senior living communities and aging industry experts to expand our understanding of senior living. And expand our capacity in research and discovery focused on aging, both in terms of supporting people who were maybe transitioning to an aging focus, who were mid-career and also early career investigators. And we wanted to increase the workforce. We have, and I hate to say exploding because it sounds negative, but we have a wonderful opportunity in the next several years to address many of the societal, economic, healthcare issues that will be coming in front of us because of our aging population. So it's important that we help students understand the opportunities that are available and the excitement of this potential workforce, these workforce opportunities. I want to thank my colleagues, Dr. Mindy Fain, who's the co-director of the Arizona Center on Aging, Dr. Esther Sternberg, who's the Andrew Weil Endowed Chair in the Andrew Weil Center on Integrative Medicine, and members of the working team who have all supported us in this endeavor. They have been my partners for sure, and particularly Anissa Westcott and Denitza Garcia, who are sitting in the front here, who I hope you have an opportunity to meet. I also want to alert you that in March, we're going to be having a speaker coming in from outside the university. She will be talking on physical activity to promote cognitive health among Hispanic and Latino communities, and we will welcome her. Finally, Dr. Floyd Ski Chilton. This is an amazing, accomplished individual. He is passionate about providing solutions to overcome physical and emotional suffering so that people can live better, more joyful lives. He is a successful innovator in a wide range of areas, including as an academic professor with over 160 scientific publications. He's an entrepreneur, starting 4 companies and 1 nonprofit organization. As a professor, I can tell you how very impressive these accomplishments are. He is also an inventor, holding over 25 patents. Dr. Chilton is widely recognized in academia and industry for his work on nutrition in the context of variations in the human genome, and has been a pioneer in the areas of personalized or precision nutrition and wellness. Dr. Chilton has over 35 years of continuous funding from the National Institutes of Health. In addition to his academic publications, Dr. Chilton is a best-selling author of 6 lay publications on physical and mental health. Particularly notable among these are Inflammation Nation, which foresaw the inflammation epidemic, The Rewired Brain, which focused on the profound influence of the unconscious mind, and his most recent book, There is Another Way to Happiness, which I am nearing completion of reading, and I was enriched by it. So I hope you check that out on Amazon, which provides the framework for a 4-step CAST process and meditation practices to enhance emotional joy. His list of awards is extensive. He received the Alumni Award for Academic and Professional Achievement from Western Carolina University, and the Established Investigator Award from Wake Forest School of Medicine. I'm so happy we got you from the southeast and the east to come west to Tucson. And he has the Established Investigator Award from the Wake Forest School of Medicine. More recently, the University of Arizona honored him with both the Outstanding Research Impact Award and the Inventor of the Year Award. He was also recently inducted, and this is no small accomplishment and achievement, into the prestigious National Academy of Inventors. Thank you, Dr. Chilton, for your willingness to talk with us tonight. We are so delighted to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you. And I'm so honored to be here, and I'm so honored by your kind words. Thank you. So, I grew up in the South and in a Baptist church, so I tend to preach instead of, so I'm not going to stand behind that lectern there, but it's so good to see you all. I'm glad you came. I'm glad to have you here, and those online, I'm glad to have you as well. What continues to motivate me? Well, a couple of years ago, a guy called me, and he just out of the blue. And the thing about writing books is people contact you all the time, and it's such a wonderful thing. But this guy was particularly motivated to get in touch with me, and he said, "You saved my life." And I said, "My goodness." I said, "I really would like to know how I saved your life, because that's a really important thing to say." And I really went and got deeper because I wanted to understand how change takes place. And he explained that he had been 80% disabled veteran. He weighed 335 pounds. He had struggled with PTSD, addicted to drugs and alcohol, taking lots of statin, sleep and antidepressive meds, and recently separated from his wife. And then, utilizing a holistic approach, in 1 year he lost 102 pounds. He is in recovery from drugs and alcohol. He shed his medications. He was getting a master's degree in counseling. And he was happily reunited with his wife, and they actually were holding couples counseling at their home. And so in a year, he had made that transformation. And I really wanted to understand how he made that transformation. I'm going to come back to that in a second. What also motivates me is I'm very much about moving from our current healthcare system of sick care to health care. And we've got to do that, because when we do that, that reduces the cost, the complexity, the side effects. It dramatically increases the probability of survival and cure and quality of life. Plus, we're bankrupting ourselves. Almost 20% of our GDP is spent on healthcare. So today's healthcare is largely after the fact, one size fits all, fragmented, uninvolved. Precision health tomorrow will be much more predictive, personalized, person-centered, and participatory. So on one hand, I write these books and I get people like Tom to write me these nice stories. On the other hand, this is my day job. So I want to come back to Tom, because Tom was really important. I kept probing Tom, and Tom didn't realize, but he actually became my subject, because I wanted to know, how did you change? How was it sustainable? And what I began to understand was this wasn't about weight loss. It wasn't even about being healthy. It was about an emotional followed by a physical transformation. But the emotional transformation had to come first. And without the emotional transformation, there would be no sustainable physical transformation. Again, my hope with people like Tom is I show this as normal aging on the red here, and you can see on the red, yeah, it's really magical. Does that show up there? It's really cool. But this is kind of normal aging, and you go up and whatever, you're in your mid-20s, and it goes downhill from there. But that's not where we want to be. I'm a 66-year-old man that's had three cancers, and a lot of bad things happen. We want to stay up here. So how do we stay up here? I tell people I want to stay up here and at age 90 die in my sleep. It'd just be over. So that's my goal. That's my objective. But what really happens in life is we go through a bunch of transitions. And how we navigate these transitions physically and emotionally, and perhaps most important emotionally, how we transition these unstable transitions and develop resilience really means everything. So to stay up here and include and increase our wellness span, these are coming. You're old enough to know these are coming. These have come. These are here. You're going to get cancer scares. You're going to move to Tucson, Arizona and get bucked off an Arabian horse and get your pelvis broken in half and be told you'd never walk again like I did. There's going to be a lot of unstable transitions in your life. And the way that you emotionally and physically respond to these will determine everything about how long you push that health span out. So, as I said, 3 cancer scares, 2 authentic cancers, an Arabian horse accident that put me in a wheelchair and told I wouldn't walk again, my quality of life. There's my son to the left. My son had a real unstable transition. He's probably the best football player in the state of North Carolina. And like the movie Remember the Titans, driving to the semifinals of the state playoffs, he was in an automobile accident and was paralyzed. So this was me a year later, back on an Arabian. Might I say not the same one? but back on an Arabian. So how we emotionally and physically come through these unstable transitions means everything. So I always say I give 3 S's for all my advice. Are they scientifically based? Are they safe? And are they sustainable? Those are my 3 S's. So I want to start with obesity and inflammation, and I want to start with stress and inflammation and the connections. Why do we weigh so much? Well, up until 100 years ago, humans avoided starvation by gorging themselves, and we put together an unconscious and conscious addictive system that for 200,000 years made us eat as much as we can, as fast as we can, because we weren't going to eat for a while. We were going to starve. So for 200,000 years, or for 6 million if it's all humanoid species, we've developed these very, very compelling, these very efficient systems that guaranteed that we would eat. And we would eat as much as we can. And so about 75 years ago, our food industry created the greatest enemy in human health, the modern Western diet. We imported that like 3 decades to China, and now there's 300 million people in China with type 2 diabetes. So we can't put a nuclear weapon on a country that would cause more devastation than the modern Western diet. It's scientific design to manipulate your brain and reward systems. Our genes and brains could never have imagined that we could sit down at a fast food restaurant and eat 3,000 calories at one setting and do it over and over and over again. What's some evidence of this? The obesity rate in 1990, look at those percentages. Less than 10%, 10 to 14%. The scale had to change. This was in 2021. Again, this is not overweight, this is obesity. This is dramatic. And it has a dramatic impact on our health. I'm going to come back to this idea, it's not your fault. It's not your fault so far. Self-control is not the real problem, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. With obesity comes horrible inflammation and inflammatory diseases. And in my 2005 book, Inflammation Nation, I was very fortunate enough to have written that book and predicted the epidemic in inflammatory diseases. It was Simon & Schuster's lead health book in 2005. I hate that I was so right, but we were. It also comes with depression cycles. It's a vicious cycle. Depression and stress then create their own disasters. Again, driving inflammation, driving lack of control, driving low physical activity, driving inflammation, driving sleep issues. So again, stress and depression dramatically drives inflammation and inflammatory diseases. So we've got this dual threat. We've got stress and depression, and we've got the modern Western diet. So back to Tom in the booth, because I learned a lot from Tom. I said, how did you do this, Tom? You said I saved your life, but I'm not understanding how I saved your life, because I've written so many words in all of these books. Tell me what part of this book saved your life. I really want to understand, because I know I'm not brilliant enough to write words in every book all the time that's going to save your life. And the answer was very, very interesting. These are my 6 books. And the answer was very interesting. He said, Ski, I couldn't sustainably lose weight. I could not sustainably get healthy until I got emotionally healthy. So he said, I read Made to Crave. Now, Made to Crave was a book that I'd written with, she's probably the leading female evangelical figure in the country, and she had written a book that was in the top 5 bestsellers the year before called Made to Crave, and it's the emotional effect of body image and obesity in women. He said, I read that book. He said, I read your Rewired Brain, the profound influence of your unconscious mind. I'd not written There Is Another Way to Happiness then. He said, then I really began to understand, I've got to get my emotional self together. And then I can go, he said, then I went back and read Inflammation Nation, learned all about inflammation. And he said, by far your best book in terms of diets and prescriptive plans were the Gene Smart diet. So I went and got the Gene Smart diet, and it had all the diets in it. And he goes, I could be sustainable then. So he got emotionally sustainable much quicker than he got dietary or health-wise. And that's why after Made to Crave, I was doing all right writing these books. I get a lot of money, and it was a good gig. But I said, I'm not writing another diet book. And I was incredibly successful. Kathy said all these wonderful things about me and gave me all of these wonderful things. But in my mid-40s, I wasn't very happy. I had a 50-page CV, curriculum vitae, and I was taking a handful of antidepressants, and I was taking a handful of anti-anxieties and lowering blood pressure medicine. So whatever was driving me, it didn't matter how successful I was, the next hill was always bigger, and I needed to climb the next hill. I needed to understand what was going on. So I took a year off. I didn't really take a year off, but I went back to Wake Forest School of Philosophy and Divinity for a year and studied the issue of free will just to understand if I had any. And started with the ancient Greeks and went all the way through. And then I wrote The Rewired Brain. Now, The Rewired Brain has been really successful. It's in every airport. I'm so excited, and it's sold over 30,000 copies, probably top 20 mindfulness books of all time. So that book has done really, really well. But what this told me was, if you don't address stress and unhappiness, you can't get physically healthy. So stress and unhappiness is the tail wagging the dog, with the dog being how physically healthy you are. We typically attack the dog. The reason I told these book publishers I wouldn't do any more diet or health books was I realized it was unsustainable unless you were emotionally sustainable and stress. So, what are my steps to conquering the inflammatory epidemic? I'm going to spend the most time on the first one because it's my new book and I'm in love. I really like it, and I'm doing a couple of interviews a day, radio and television podcasts. It's so much fun. I'll go through the last 4 very quickly, and I'm going to warn you that I'm going to do that. So emotional change. Well, let's see if I can do this. The first book, when I went back to study the issue of free will and whether humans really had it, what I began to understand was 95% of our thoughts were coming from our unconscious minds. They were coming from anxiety, from our primitive unconscious minds. Our primitive unconscious minds were designed to make us unhappy. The only thing our unconscious mind wants us to do, or wanted us to do for 100,000 years, was get our precious DNA, our genes, to the next generation. So it was going to scare the crap out of us. It was going to make us control freaks. It was going to do everything possible to remember childhood trauma, remember anything that's hurt you, remember anybody that's hurt you. It was going to do anything to warn you. It was a warning system, and basically every sad emotion, every unhealthy emotion you were having was coming from this unconscious mind. And so we had this unconscious mind within us, and see if I can do this. Voila! Reminds me of the movie The Matrix.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Matrix. Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Love the movie. Neo and Morpheus. They were talking about a computer generated, this was a sci-fi, The Matrix, computer generated, that completely had everyone living out a reality that was a fabricated reality. The reason I love this is the analogy to our unconscious minds are so powerful here. We're living an unconscious nightmare that our unconscious minds create. And the thing is, they're unconscious. We don't know, by definition, because they're unconscious, we don't know what they're saying to us. All we know is what we feel. All we know is our feelings, our senses, and they in turn create conscious thoughts. But again, in the back of our heads are these primitive unconscious minds. Humans gain these neocortexes in the front. So the analogy here is that we, like Neo, are living these unconscious lives. And we think they are reality. We're absolutely convinced. But within our brain, there are two minds that are constantly battling for our feelings, responses, and behaviors. And believe me, the unconscious mind has all the advantages. Unconscious mind, the blue pill, it's the lizard brain. It's unconscious. It's spontaneous. It's fight or flight. It remembers childhood traumas or adult traumas, past relationships, parent attachments. It listens and reacts to warnings, social media politics. This is really bad. 10,000 signals a second come out of that unconscious mind. It can't fact check. It has no ability. It just feels things, thinks things, but has no ability to test whether they're true or not. The conscious mind, the red pill, the front brain, neocortex, it understands distinct self, higher levels of morality, sacrificial choices, deductive reasoning. It can fact check, but it's much, much slower. It can monitor and override unconscious reactions, but it's very, very slow. But to be able to shift from your unconscious mind to your conscious mind requires mindfulness. It requires awareness. So, after I wrote The Rewired Brain, a lot of people like it, but a woman came up to me at a Barnes & Noble and she goes, "I hate you." I said, "Wow, that's strong." She said, "You told me in no uncertain terms why I was so messed up in every aspect of my life, but you did not provide me a solution." You know what? She was right. So that started me on a 6-year journey. What was the solution to this problem? Well, now I'm going to move into mindfulness because it's kind of funny. Life has a funny way of really changing you. 8 years ago, there could not have been more of a poo-pooer of meditation than me. I mean, I'm an evolutionary geneticist and biochemist. We don't believe in mindfulness. However, at the time, there were 111 publications on mindful meditation. I looked today and there's 9,998 publications and over 300 clinical trials for PTSD, depression, inflammation, anxiety, clinical trials for everything. And there's a lot of these MRI and type studies. And again, if you look at this one, it just shows that folks who meditate, their prefrontal cortex is much more developed. So their neocortex up here is much more developed. Again, if you look down here, open monitoring meditation reduces the involvement related to memory function. So all those memory function things, all those childhood traumas and all those things that are producing those unconscious memories are less used in people who meditate. So I went about a journey. It was a 6-year journey, meditation journey. And it was tough for me because, to be quite honest, I wasn't resonating with the hippie kind of meditators, and I wasn't resonating a whole lot with the real religious ones over here. So I had to go and discover my own way. And I had this great app called Insight Timer, which has 8,000 meditations on it, and I figured somewhere in these 8,000, I'm going to see what this is all about. Meditated for 3 years. My wife Trish and I moved here. She loved Arabian horses, and so she needed to bring one that we had rescued, had never been trained, never been imprinted, and this redneck cowboy from North Carolina thought he could break that horse, train that horse. 4 weeks later, it broke his pelvis in half. And at that point, I'm sitting, just recruited here, inauspicious start for sure. Just recruited here, sitting in front of a palm tree every morning at 5:30, trying to meditate. And at first, dealing with, you're such a dummy, Ski. Your wife, why would she have insisted? That damn cowboy that put you on that horse. I mean, the unconscious mind was going crazy. But it was meditation on steroids because it allowed me to develop a framework for meditation that worked for me. And so I've developed a meditation process that's in my most recent book called CAST. And CAST, the C is awakening to consciousness. It's awakening to the fact that there's two yous in you. There's an unconscious you and a you. And I call it my I in the book and my me. My I is my true self. And I happen to be a person that believes in divinity, so that part of me can connect. You don't have to. You can call it the universe. You can call it whatever you like. But it's that part of me, that I, that is precious. Now, my unconscious mind is my me. And the third chapter of my book is a metaphor of a hurricane, and it's called My I, E-Y-E, I, isn't that clever, in the middle of my me hurricane storm. It's the metaphor of a hurricane with an I in the middle of it. That's our lives. Our lives are the unconscious going around and our I sitting in the middle calmly. Deepening awareness was the A. Again, what are the things that keep you imprisoned? What are your childhood traumas? Again, you don't have to go and live there. I hate people who live there. Just bring them up in your conscious mind. Just know them. Because for me, unworthiness was a big one. I grew up in a house without a bathroom in the Appalachian Mountains, and I was severely dyslexic, couldn't read coming out of high school, and put in a trailer where over top the trailer it said retarded trailer. That produced an unworthiness in me that a 55-page CV could not cover up. Once we become aware of those things, we're going, oh, that's why oh yeah, that's where that's coming from. The third step is letting go or surrender. And again, there's chapters on that. I talk about wildfires and new beginnings, my son's paralysis. He talks about his paralysis in those chapters. And then the fourth step is trust. And it's the idea that we are co-creators. If we believe with the universe, fine, the divine, fine, but we're co-creators. Unconditional love. Our job here is to give unconditional love. And if we trust and don't control our lives, we're put just where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there. And we're headed down this beautiful river to the sea. Not putting our feet down, not slowing, not putting rocks in our pockets, not sinking to the bottom, not getting out of the river. So that's my new book. I'm really excited. It's doing very well, and it's at the end of it. It has 13 weeks of meditations. Now I'm going to rapidly move through the other steps. Once you've got yourself together emotionally, once you're emotionally stabilized, then you can do a lot of really important things from the health perspective. Overcoming food addictions. Again, they share the same reward: dysfunction, impulsivity, emotional dysregulation. They're very similar to drug addictions. Again, signs of food addictions, and I'm not going to read these. You can read them. But again, they look very much like drug addiction. My son, who was paralyzed, unfortunately had 4 surgeries and was an opiate addict for 12 years. So they're not so different than those addictive foods. We know them. Third step, be intentional with your food choices and calorie intake. Don't forget the equation, no matter what somebody says to you. Calories in, calories out equal calories stored. Now, you can play a lot of games with that, and we can get all fancy and this food and that food and this food and that food. But essentially, calories in and calories out minus calories out equals calories stored. And 1 pound equals 3,500 calories. So you're not going to get around that equation. That equation you will live by. So calculate your daily calorie needs. I've got them here for a sedentary man, sedentary woman, and their age. It depends on age, it depends on activity, and you can find those out. But if you go over those, it's calories stored. With calorie intake, a little means a lot. So if I take in an extra 12 calories a day for a year, I'm going to gain a pound. If I take in an extra 25 calories a day for a year, I'm going to gain 2.5 pounds. If I'm going to eat as small as I can imagine, French fry from McDonald's over here a day, extra, I'm going to gain 10 pounds a year. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is if I take 100 calories out of my diet per year, 100 calories per day out of my diet, then I lose 10 pounds. So it's not hard. With calorie intake, a little means a lot. Be very intentional, mindful eating. Again, we've got a chicken sandwich, whole wheat bun, 350 calories. Combo meal, 1,000 calories. Running 1,350 calories off. That means you have to run 2 hours at high speed. So just remember, an extra 1,350, that's going to cost you 2 hours at high speed, or in my case, it's going to take 3 nights walking up Tumamoc, because I walk Tumamoc. So we can make these decisions, but the decisions are what the decisions are. You want to walk, you want to have that combo meal, and just know that you got to walk 3 nights up Tumamoc. Tumamoc ain't easy. It's really rough. Also understand that the first choice that you make every day will determine most other choices of the day. Start out with those Krispy Kreme donuts, as we do in the South. I'm from Winston-Salem. It's where it was born. Hot and now, I used to just wait outside for the hot and now sign. That just means they just made them. Start out there. It's going to be a rough day because you're going to hit a sugar high and it's going to go down. And when it goes down, it's telling you to eat. Start out with stable food. Start out with high protein food. Even if you eat your bagel with protein, it's going to slow the rate at which it's absorbed. And if it slows the rate at which it's absorbed, then you're not going to hit that high sugar spike. Be intentional with your calorie burn. What fits your schedule better? Exercise for 1 hour or being dead for 24? Again, I don't need to say all these. You know these. Exercise is magnificent. And this was a study done maybe 15 years ago, and I don't know how in the world the people in this study found twin pairs where there was a more active twin and a less active twin. But again, the more active twin was basically 15 years younger by measuring telomere length. You cannot exercise enough to zero out an unhealthy diet. That's just, I was saying before, you want to walk up to them 3 times, then you get a Big Mac combo meal. And it's okay. Just make the choice, because the choice is the choice. Again, the great thing about exercise and things that really have helped a lot is, especially with regard to inflammation, is you don't necessarily have to exercise an hour or an hour and a half. So you don't have to exercise as much, you just have to exercise harder. And so go to your doctor, make sure you can do this, but 25 to 30 minutes a day is great as long as you're elevating your heart rate. So you do need to exercise harder, perhaps interval training when you start, but again, you don't have to exercise as long. Make it fun and varied, and as Trish will tell you up there, I do that, sometimes embarrassingly so. I love to dance, so. Choose the right nutritional strategies. Again, you know the things to avoid. Avoid processed foods, increase your protein, reduce simple carbohydrates, increase complex carbohydrates and fiber, certain polyphenols and omega-3s. By far, the most proven diet in the world from a scientific perspective is the Mediterranean diet. There's more scientific evidence. If you want to follow one diet and not get confused and add diets, that is the most studied diet in the world, and by far the most proven diet in the world. Increase protein, again, good sources you see over here. Again, I'm about to run out of time, but 0.7 per pound. It's not hard to get 105 grams of protein a day. But if you do that, I will promise you not eating as much will not be a problem. Again, it adds up fast. The other true secret is fiber. Fiber only contains a few calories. It increases food volume. Nearly 100% of dietary fiber reaches your colon. If I can tell someone they really want to lose weight and they want to mindfully lose weight, I can tell a woman if you get to 20 to 25 grams of fiber a day, you're going to lose weight. We don't even have to talk about what you're going to eat. A man, if you get to 30 to 35 grams a day, you're going to lose weight. However, you know, about 50% should be soluble fiber, and you better drink plenty of water or you're going to get kicked out of the bedroom, because it ain't going to be pretty. Increase polyphenols. Again, these are the catechins in green tea. the resveratrol in dark fruit skins, the anthocyanins in resveratrol in red wine, ellagic acid. So again, and increase omega-3 fatty acids. I know there's been a lot of controversy on this. I've been right in the middle of the controversy. I've been studying omega-3s for 40 years. So the benefits, the best evidence, cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, stroke, early childhood development, but promising evidence comes from all these others. Again, we live in a society where the omega-3, 6 to omega-3 is 16 to 1 in the modern Western diet. It should be 5 to 1. Omega-6 PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, give rise to pro-inflammatory mediators called oxylipins and eicosanoids, and they drive inflammation. So it's very, very important that we balance these omega-6 either by eating fish, salmon, or taking a supplement. I really don't care. During evolution, the omega-3 to omega-6 was 2 to 1. So I forget which of the books I published this in, but these are great sources of omega-3s, good sources, and I'm not going to read them all, fair sources of omega-3s. And I got in a whole lot of trouble when I said farm-raised tilapia had no omega-3s, but a bunch of omega-6s. In fact, that was on the front page of the New York Times, and the National Fisheries Institute came after me and hired a private eye to follow me. So science can be a contact sport. In this case, they produced a dossier and they sent it to the Wake Forest College president, said I had a conflict of interest. So again, this was a painful slide to put together, but we basically looked at the omega-6, omega-3 composition of every food in the US food supply. Again, look at the non-concentrates and concentrates. Again, if you're looking here, the total omega-3 is 720. EPA, you're adding EPA and DHA together in a concentrate, and you can get you're getting 1,400 milligrams a day, and you can see how much more EPA and DHA you're getting in the supplement. So know what the labels say, because you could be taking 3 or 4 non-concentrated a day when you could take 1 concentrate and you'll be fine. Trish suggested, I didn't even know you could do this, but she suggested that I make a whatever this is, and if you take a picture of it, you can go straight to Amazon and you can see there is another way to happiness. It is, the Audible came out last week. I'm very proud of the Audible. The Audible was a friend of mine in Utah, and he has this beautiful baritone voice. I would have loved to have done the Audible, but my severe dyslexia prevented me from reading my own book. But I sure am enjoying listening to the Audible, because for some reason this book was written on the Mexican coast in 5 weeks, and I don't know that I wrote it. I appear to be the medium for it. So listening to it has really enriched me, because it seems to be teaching me. And I think that is my last slide. I'm happy to take questions.
Questions. We have 2 people with microphones over here, and we will have some questions from the online audience as well. So just raise your hand if you have a question. We'll bring you the mic.
This is kind of a science-based question, but do you know much about the C15 fatty acid that's being promoted presently on the market as a pure form of the omega-3? It's in a powdered form produced out of San Diego.
I wish I know I don't. And if I don't know about it, that's not a good sign because C15 well, C15 would mean that it's coming from a bacteria because it's an odd chain fatty acid, and mammals or fish or whatever do not have the ability to make odd chain fatty acids. Only bacteria have the ability. So I would assume it's coming from a bacteria. I don't know if it's a genetically engineered one or not, but I don't know. I'm sorry. I'll look that up though, because it's interesting. Yes.
I don't know if this is related or not, but I've been reading a lot about beets and how even the NIH and Mayo Clinic and a lot of clinical studies that it lowers blood pressure by 10 points and increases stamina for exercise. Any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I mean, these are polyphenol and antioxidants. I don't know if the numbers have been validated. I was in this space, the dietary supplement space, for a long time, and Deshay or Grass allowed you to say a lot of things. But the evidence is very strong that they're beneficial. Are they that beneficial? I don't know, but the evidence, both from a polyphenol and an antioxidant perspective, they're very beneficial. Yes.
We have a question online. What is your opinion about taking probiotics for gut health? Any impact on inflammation?
The answer is yes, but the gut microbiome right now is the future of science. We're just starting to understand. There's 1 trillion cells there, more cells than in any part of our body. And we're just now moving to the science to the point that we can begin to make some sense out of it. The answer is yes for pre and probiotics, but again, the science is not definitive enough right now to say exactly what their mechanism is and exactly what their molecular mechanism is when it comes to inflammation. I wish I could say better, but we're not there yet. Yes.
What do you think about all this Wegovy stuff? You know, what the people are doing for weight loss.
The what?
Wegovy, you know, and all these things that make you Ozempic. What do you think about those things?
The,
Ozempic, the diabetes
oh,
drugs that people are doing now.
I'm sure they've gone through safety studies. I'm sure that the impact on diabetes is important. I'm not a basher of the pharmaceutical industry. I've
More of a brain thing, where it's like feeling weird or something. That's why I'm just going by what I saw on TV.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know enough about it to answer. And I always tell my graduate students, if you don't know the answer, say, I don't know, because if you do say you know, and I know, I'm going to kill you. So I'm going to follow the advice I give to my graduate students and say, I don't know. Yeah. Yes.
How much do genetics influence tolerance for different types of eating?
Wow, that was a plant in the audience. That's what I do for a living. That's my day job and it makes a big difference for certain nutrients. The nutrient that we study in my lab is omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. And different ancestry populations metabolize those dramatically different. So in 1961, the American Heart Association said, let's eat PUFAs, polyunsaturated, and take saturated out of our diet. That was based on 39 studies in white or European American populations. Well, if we have a claim to fame, or if I have a claim, or if my science is, we demonstrated that put omega-6, that's what drove the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 to 16 to 1. Well, we kind of assumed that all populations would metabolize those omega-6 and omega-3s the same. What my lab showed was African ancestry populations, African Americans, metabolize those dramatically faster and more efficiently than European ancestry populations. Then we came out here and looked at Amerindian ancestry, Mexican Americans, and showed that they couldn't make omega-3s if there was that much omega-6 in the diet. So ancestry and where you were in evolution and what your evolutionary background, what you adapted to, or what the ancestry that your ancestors adapted to dramatically impacts the way that you respond to food. And that's precision nutrition. That's what precision nutrition is about. One size fits all no longer fits all. And in fact, one size fits all can actually harm certain populations. And we've got to get much more sophisticated about that. And that's, again, when I'm not writing books about meditation, that's my day job.
Okay, I'll go ahead and ask the last question. Is there a clear link between inflammation and certain types of cancer, for example, breast cancer?
There's certainly, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, inflammation and inflammatory cytokines drive many, many types of cancer. One of the big health disparities, I've had prostate cancer, but one of the big health disparities is that African ancestry men, African Americans, are 3 times more likely to get prostate cancer and 3 times more likely to die. Now, that's not simply access to care. That is, again, dietary reasons driving inflammation and that driving these cancers. So, there is a strong, strong link between inflammation, inflammatory cytokines, and certain types of cancers. Yes.
What's the relationship between plant-based diet and animal-based diet in relationship to inflammation? Is there any correlations there?
The question is, what is the connection between plant-based diets and animal-based diets? It's not as clear as vegetarians would like to think. Obviously, we should be eating a lot more plant-based, but up until recently, there was no way to get long-chain omega-3s into your diet without eating fish or taking a fish-based supplement. Now, you want to get me angry? Have a pregnant mom walk up to me and say, I'm a vegetarian. Because 60% of that baby's brain is DHA, the long-chain omega-3 DHA. And she's producing that brain in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy. And if you tell me you're not eating fish or taking a fish oil supplement that has DHA in it, then I really won't be pleased. That's just simply child abuse as far as I'm concerned.
I should have known that when I was pregnant. Thank you, Dr. Choden. I am just thrilled that you were able to be here, and we're very grateful for your time. Thanks everyone who is here to listen in person and to those of you virtually. And it will be archived in the Healthy Aging website. So if people want to listen to it, it will be there. Thank you.
Thank you.